There I am.
Hi, TJ.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for joining us. I don't know if the bookstore is here with us yet, or
Yeah, I don't know. Are you the meeting host, or is it Toadstool?
no, it's Toadstool. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I don't even know if people can see us yet.
Oh, I don't know either. If you can, hello.
Well, thank you for doing this with me. By the way, I just
Yeah.
have to say that this is freaking delightful, and also I honestly think that I would rather instead of because this is my 8th tour stop, so I'm kind of sick of talking about me.
I hear you. I hear you.
So I would kind of like to make this a lot more about you two coming in to talk about your book, if you're okay with that and comfortable with
Yeah,
that.
we could make it
Because
conversation.
they have so much more in common than I expected, because they're both like about fandom and queerness and awesomeness. And I'd like that to be a two-way street, because I think
Yeah,
it'd
that
be
sounds
a
great.
lot better than
I
how
can't
it
believe they
was.
had you do 8 digital tour stops.
Oh
That's
my God. It is, yeah, in 2 weeks.
wow.
And it's been
I agreed to 2.
yeah, but it's the first one there was like a good amount of people, and the second one good, third good amount, but it just keeps getting less and less and less, because by the time you're towards the end, everybody's like, I've already heard all what you have to say, and
Yeah.
I'm totally okay with that.
Well, and I feel like you're not having to like make like geographical like maneuvering happen when you're on the internet, like
Yeah, and
everyone's everywhere.
it's cool, like when you to be able to have people from all over the world be able to watch, instead of when you have to go from like store to store. But this eventually everybody just has heard what you have to say.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Well,
they're not even giving me time off, because they start me all over again next month with different stuff. So
oh my gosh, no.
I'm so tired.
This is the year I'm writing 3 books in 1 year, which is new for me, and so I just am very limited in what I'll do in that
Yeah,
regard.
you're writing 3 books at once.
Well, 2 at once right now, and then the third one will be in the fall.
How do you do that?
I don't
I
know. I've
can't.
never done it before. I'll let you
Is it
know.
working out? Okay.
No.
I can only have like my focus be on one thing at a time. Otherwise I get too distracted, and to even try to imagine writing 2 different books at once would just drive me up the wall. So I bow to you and your amazingness.
Well, I might not be around for you to bow to if I don't survive this year, so we'll see.
That's super good. Is the bookstore with us?
Well, it looks like there are 2 logins from Toadstool on here, and then 2 really nice people, I'm guessing, named Chelsea and Annalise. Hi, Chelsea and Annalise. But yeah, I don't know.
And Scotty.
Oh,
Are you all? We'll give him a little bit more.
there's, and we've been like a little more populated now. Nice.
So how's your book release going then, with Faith Taking Flight?
It's good. It's I always try to like hyper focus on the first week or 2, and then I always have too much work to get back to. So I really did a lot for the first week, 2 weeks. I feel like you get more requests now that like everything is online, because everyone's like trying to create tons of content. So I've just been doing like podcasts and like news interview things like nonstop. Which when you agree to, you think like, oh, that's not a big deal. And then you realize that like, for some reason, getting in front of your computer and turning on the camera is a big deal when you actually have to do it. So it's been an enlightening summer so far.
Yeah, I've like my publicist, they have to send me like weekly calendars, so I remember what they are making, or what they're not making me do, what they're letting me do. And it's like, oh, you have to do a podcast on this day. Oh, you have to do a blog interview on this day. Oh, you have to be online on this day. And I'm like, isn't everybody so sick of seeing my face? I am so sick of being online. Like, I just don't want to be online anymore now.
I know. I feel the same way, but there's a rhyme and reason to it, maybe. I don't know the rhyme and reason, but I'm sure there is. Hi fellow Klunatics. Hi, Book Daddy. You're gonna have to explain the Book Daddy thing, and also
Because it was,
Klunatics.
yeah, for my last
Good.
name, they just, yeah, there's it's like thinking we have like 3,500 people in the Clunatic Facebook group now, and it's
Nice.
a very lovely, a very safe and wonderful place where nobody's mean and everybody's happy and everybody's caring about each other. It's literally probably one of the last safe bastions on the internet, where when you comment, it's a good comment. You can actually read the comments on stuff because it is, it's happiness. And Book Daddy, oh man, Book Daddy, that came from, I did a interview with a bookstore, and I talked about, I don't remember how it came up, but I talked about how now that I'm 38 years old, I'm too old to be a twink, so I'm either sad or a dad now. And then it stuck, and now I'm Book Daddy, and it's just how it goes. It's something that I'm just going to live with, I guess, for the rest of my life.
I greatly appreciate that.
Well, I don't know if anyone is going to introduce, so we may as well just get started and just do it
I know.
ourselves.
I think Toadstool might be leaving that to us. So
Okay,
let's do it.
let's do it. Rock on. I'll let you begin.
Okay. Hi, for Klunatics. I almost said lunatics. Klunatics.
No, that's pretty much the same.
For those of you that don't know me, my name is Julie Murphy. I am the author. Same thing. I'm watching the chat as it goes.
Yeah.
This is entertaining, but very
Yeah.
distracting. I know. I'm the author of Faith Taking Flight and other books like Dumplin' Puddin', Ramona Blue.
Dumplin', which was turned into a Netflix film.
It was indeed. And I'm so excited to be here with TJ talking about their latest book. Take it away, TJ. Tell me, if you could tell me a little bit about The Extraordinaries.
The Extraordinaries, my lovely, lovely.
Oh wait, you have a different cover.
This is the UK cover.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
And I've got that
Our books
cover.
kind of match, by the way.
I know, don't they? Isn't that cool? And then it got that. Yeah. It's like they were meant to be.
Yeah.
The Extraordinaries is about a fanboy named Nick who loves the superheroes in his city so much and so obsessively that he writes fan fiction about them. And he is so in love with the idea of one particular superhero, one particular extraordinary named Shadowstar, that he's basically made it's his personal mission to be Shadowstar's biggest fan, which he is, which is why he has written a 200,000 word masturbatory ode in the form of fan fiction that is basically self-insert fan fiction about him and what he considers to be the love of his life, much to the exasperation of his friends Seth and Gibby and Jazz. And this book is basically a love letter to fandom and queerness and neurodiversity, because Nick, like me, has ADHD. And I think it's so important that we continue to talk about ADHD and the stigma behind mental health, because it's something that even now today in 2020 we have to deal with, and there's still negative connotations behind mental health. And I don't know why, because mental health is something that everyone should be aware of and taking care of, especially now during the time when the world is on fire and everything kind of sucks. And it's ridiculous. But I also, this is so cool to be able to talk to you, and people who don't know this, maybe tell me about your book too, because they have a lot in common. They actually have so much, because I'm so excited that you're my last stop, because I get to talk to you about this kind of stuff.
I know, this is very exciting. So Faith Taking Flight just came out, and for those of you who can't tell, Faith is a fat superhero who can fly. I always, when I'm talking to a new group of people, I always say this very brief spiel, and that I use the word fat, I use it purposefully. I use it because the word has been used as an insult for so long, when in reality it should just be a neutral word, just a descriptor, because there's nothing offensive or awful about being fat. It's only offensive when you try to use it as an insult.
Gotta reclaim that. You gotta reclaim it.
Exactly. So I write a lot about plus size characters, and Faith is actually a Valiant Comics property. And so they reached out to me a few years ago and asked me if I'd be interested about writing an origin story, a YA origin story about her. And I had recently discovered Faith. I wasn't like super into comics growing up. And I think a lot of that was just because like it just felt like when you're a fat kid, like superhero comics to me almost felt like an extension of sports. Like I felt so far, like it just felt so far out of my reach, so like so far beyond anything that I was included from. So I never really delved into superhero comics until I heard about Faith. But so this is Faith's origin story. It's really, I like to think of it as like a coming of age story more than a superhero story. It's about her coming into her superpowers and feeling like a third wheel amongst her best friends, and also getting to meet, like in the Extraordinaries, one of her absolute heroes, who is the star of her favorite TV show, and she ends up falling for this girl, and it's super gay, super body positive.
That is such a good thing. We need that. But let me ask you, what was the comic publisher that reached out to you about that?
It's Valiant.
Valiant. So is this officially canon then?
Mm-hmm.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That is so cool. And this is only the first book, right? Yeah.
This is the first book. There will be a second book. So Faith is a plus size superhero that exists. She was created in like the mid 90s, and since it's a smaller group of you, and since I hope none of you will put this on the internet, I can say that in the earlier comics, Faith was like, she was great and powerful, but you also kind of wondered if she was sort of the butt of a joke at times. In the later comics, she's definitely like, the more like reimagining of her is definitely like powerful and body positive and aware. So I really fell in love with Jodie Houser. She's the person who reimagined Faith. Really, I really fell in love with her idea and vision of Faith. So
what was it? The earlier versions of it, was there fat phobia that went along with that, or was it? I
wouldn't say like blatant fat phobia, but I think that a lot of the a lot of the art was sort of, I'm gonna get in so much trouble.
No, we don't have to go that direction, because it's good because this kind of positivity is absolutely 100% needed, and for the fact that you don't get to typically see plus size or fat superheroes taking center stage. And that is a tremendous thing to be able to have that. And look at, even better, she is like front and center on the cover, and she's the only one on there. And that is what is so remarkable about it. I didn't know that was a comic. I thought I knew.
I mean, it was body positive for the 90s as much as the 90s could ever have been body positive. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't quite hold up to like a 2020 standard. And the newer comics definitely do.
So they still have the run of the comics is still going on. It hasn't ended. Wow, I did not know that. I'm going to have to look that up now. That is freaking awesome.
Yeah. Oh. So, okay, I want to hear, one thing that, really struck me about the Extraordinaries was Nick's, like, I don't want to say battle, but Nick's experience with ADHD and how it's just so, like, it feels so lived in and on the page. And could you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's obviously it comes from personal experience, because I was a 16-year-old queer kid with ADHD and didn't know how to shut up, and I was always moving and my brain was always on fire. And it's something that I've learned to grow up with. It's something I've learned to manage through my own sheer force of will, but also with the help of medical professionals who know what they're talking about and have given me the proper medication that I need to be on to handle and be able to strive with my ADHD. But if you think about it, much like Faith, there isn't a lot of superheroes or even queer characters or even just YA characters that deal with neurodiversity. And if they do, they're not always done in the most positive and factually accurate light. And that's unfortunate, because ADHD, when you think of ADHD, most people would probably latch on to the last word, which is disorder. And that's what they think it is. They think that I am disordered. And I wanted to, with Nick, I needed to show that he while he does struggle at times with his ADHD, he does not let it define him. And that is so, so important for people to understand. And I can't quite get it across well enough for people who maybe don't have somebody with ADHD in their life, because it's so hard to impress upon people just all the little minute details of what it means to have ADHD. But with Nick, I wanted to show how a mind works with a kid, because kids, teenagers, they're already going through lots of stuff anyways. Their hormones are dialed up to an 11. They are dealing with their friends, their family, their school, and everything like that. Some are dealing, like Nick, with being queer. He's fortunate in that that's not an issue for anyone in his life. And but on top of that, he does have to deal with his ADHD, which he considers at the very beginning to be a deficit. And it's something that he has to come to terms with as the story progresses, because you're never going to be rid of it. It's always going to be part of your life. When you're a kid with ADHD, you're going to grow up to be an adult with ADHD. And no matter what happens, that will always be the case. There's no cure. It's not something that you can grow out of. It's always going to be part of you. Some adults it'll lessen in some adults. Some, like me, it stays exactly as it was when I was 16. But with Nick, I wanted people to understand, the readers to understand, that with kids like them, they're not bad people. Yeah, maybe they talk too much. Maybe their brain moves and their mouth moves just even ahead of their brain, and they say things that maybe should have been filtered, but they don't have a filter, and that's just how it goes. And I don't think that people, again, unless you have somebody with ADHD in your life, there's a lot of myths and misunderstandings about what it means to be neurodiverse. So my goal with this book was to show that this is what it means like to live with ADHD, but to do it in such a way that it wasn't something that needed to be feared, or that was absolutely 100% the worst thing in the world to happen to people. Some people struggle with it. Some people, when they get that diagnosis, they feel it's like a prison sentence. And I know when I was first diagnosed, when I was growing up, it came later in my teenage years. But to me, I felt such a relief that I finally had a label. I finally had a name of, this is what's going on with me, that I didn't even stop to think, oh crap, that sucks. Because I felt so relieved that I wasn't crazy, that there was something that not necessarily wrong with me, but something that made me different. And when you're that age, being different is a bad thing. That's what you think it is. You don't see it as a benefit. You don't see it, especially when you're dealing with being queer on top of it,
Well, and I think that there's just so much, I don't know, I know that not everyone feels this way, but there's so much comfort in knowledge. And there's much comfort, and I think that a lot of people in the queer community feel this way too, like just being able to settle on a label, just being able to find something to call themselves. And what I really loved about the ADHD representation in the book is that it doesn't, like, you get like a real taste of what it's like to live with ADHD without, and this isn't a comment on ADHD, more a comment on your writing skills, but without it ever feeling chaotic, while like still like moving the plot forward and moving the book forward, which I think is, in the hands of a less experienced writer would probably not have ended up the same way. So
which is why it's important to have that kind of like own voices writing, because while I believe that everybody should be able to write whatever they want, that's just but I think that if you're going to be stepping outside of your lane, you need to be making sure that you're doing right by it, because you can essentially and possibly cause more harm than help. And you may not even realize it. You may not even realize that you're spreading false stigma or wrong things about what it means to be whatever, fill in the blank. And it's important that people who do step outside of their own lane make sure that they do research or talk to people that are in the community that you're writing in, because I guarantee you that there are so many people that'd be more than willing to talk about this kind of stuff. All you have to do is ask. And Nick's ADHD was never was never going to be the main focus. It's a plot point, but it's not the plot point, because that's how it is in life. It's part of me, but it's not the part of me, you know? And it's so important that people realize that, because again, the moment, yes, I love labels. Some people don't, but sometimes when you tell people, yeah, hey, I'm neurodiverse or I have ADHD, immediately that's when they're like, you can see it shoot across their brain. You can know what they're thinking. Oh, he's disordered. That's terrible. And you can see it on their face, and it is what it is. I don't freaking know.
I feel like I wonder if you get this too. Every time I post a photo of myself, especially if it's like a swimsuit or something like that, someone's like, "You're so brave. That's so amazing." So do people give you like these really patronizing comments with "Oh my gosh, you wrote a book. That's so incredible. What a thing for you to overcome."
When I wrote my first book back in 2011, I was talking with an acquaintance of mine, somebody that I wouldn't necessarily call a friend, but an acquaintance of mine, and they were asking what I was up to, and I told them, oh, I wrote a book and it's going to be published. And they immediately went, oh, you were able to focus enough to write a book? And I'm like, geez, come on. It's like, okay, first and foremost, why would you say that? Second of all, are you stupid, or is that how it is? But it is. There is that patronizing moment where they're like, "Oh, good for you, you did it," and you're just like, "You freaking write a book and tell me how it goes for you, man."
Yeah.
That's because writing a book is not easy for anyone, no matter who they are. It's a pain in the butt to freaking open a Word document on a blank page and see that cursor blinking at you. And there's that imposter syndrome that always seems to come into play. And yeah, the patronizing thing is one of the worst. And I'm sure you've probably had people that don't see past parts of you like that, because they see you and they think, like, they see me how much I fidget. I fidget all the time. It's just how I move. And they see me and make they make a judgment. And that's how it's going to be from that point on.
And I think, it's like with this one specifically, I keep getting comments from random people that'll be like, I'm so glad you wrote a book about a fat superhero, but I wish we could just have a book about like a person who is plus size and it not be about them being plus size. And I'm like, well, the thing is, like, she's on the cover. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no getting around what you see on the cover. And it's not available for Amazon. Sorry, I should not have the comments open because I'm just going to start reading them.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's not available
for Amazon UK. Huh.
Yeah.
Well, we'll check later.
But anyhow, I just like it's just an unavoidable thing, and it's like this ever present. Your body is ever present, mm-hmm. And so as someone writing about like a plus size character, like I just can't. It's not something I can like table as I'm writing. Like I'm going to be thinking about these things mm-hmm. as I'm doing certain things in my body as I walk into a room full of strangers, and so it's going to be the same thing in a book without. But then at the same time, it's not like, this isn't an after school special. Like it's not
right.
like this isn't like the obesity epidemic episode of our very important
right, show. Where everyone learns a very valuable lesson at the very, very end. But that's what I understand is that no matter what, people come in all shapes and sizes, and everyone should be allowed to be the star of their own story. So I don't understand why people might see this and think, oh, why can't they just make it a regular? I mean, I want to see plus size superheroes. I want to see superheroes that are queer. I want to see queer superheroes with ADHD. I want to see all of these kinds of things because let's be frank, we don't get to see that for the most part elsewhere.
Right.
You really don't. I mean, yes, there's the comic publisher that approached you, obviously invested in this character. That's why the character's still ongoing. But when do you ever see anything like that in, say, movies or television in terms of the superhero epidemic that we're going through? Never. You don't see the queer characters. You don't see plus size superheroes. You don't see any of those on screen. It's all mostly straight white people.
They're everywhere.
Right. And I would love, obviously, to have that change, and it is in comics and YA. but I don't know that it's going anywhere else. Like, what's Marvel doing? What's DC doing with their
Yeah.
movies? Why aren't they promoting this kind of thing instead of telling us, hey, we're giving you 2 minutes of screen time for this one random queer character that you'll never ever see again, and bye.
And you only know they're queer because we mentioned it online and they're like running in the credits of the movie. Like, do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, it just.
Or they literally look at the camera and say, I'm gay.
Yeah.
I'm the
This
gay
is
one.
my wife.
Right. You just, and that's all it is. And then, with all like the comic movies, they all have the through line for almost every single one of them is they have a heterosexual romance. They literally do, except for Steve and Bucky, which you can't tell me Captain America,
No.
Winter Soldier was not just basically a gay romance between two men who loved each other so much that they were fighting. But other than that, every other Marvel movie was basically heterocentral while things blew up. And I'm just like, this is nice, but I'm so bored with you straight people.
I know, it's the same stories over and over again. And then I feel like when queer books and movies and TV shows start doing those same things, like when we finally do see like Asian American rom-coms or like all these different things, people are like, oh, we have tons of rom-coms, why do we need more? And I'm like, because we've never had this, like we've never had this moment where it's something totally different from people who are completely different, so it's not the same thing.
What was that big Asian rom-com that came out like last year or the year before? What was that called?
Something
Crazy Rich Asians.
Crazy Rich Asians.
And remember when that exploded and everybody was like, we didn't know it was going to be so big. If you make it about the people who are underutilized and underrepresented, they will come. They will come to see themselves on the screen. We want to have that. We want to be able to see that. And I can understand how monumental that must have felt for that community to be able to have that. But where is my mainstream gay romance?
Right.
You got what was it, Love, Simon, which I liked the book much better. I thought the movie was a little bland, but push the buttons, push the boundaries, give money to queer filmmakers who want to make queer rom-coms. There was a sapphic movie that came out like mid 2000s called Kissing Jessica Stein.
That
was delightful.
Kissing Jessica Stein is like
you
a
love
pillar
that?
of my life.
Oh God, I loved that movie so much. And it was a lesbian romantic comedy. And it was funny, it was charming, and it was beautiful. And I honestly, because I was probably like 2002, 2003. And I honestly expected, because then right after that was the whole Brokeback Mountain. And I honestly expected, okay, we're going to usher in a wave of gay cinema, right, where gays are going to be front and center. And then that didn't happen.
You can only watch Meg Ryan fall in love so many times
before you're like, Jesus, Meg Ryan, come on. I know. It was. I just remember being so happy watching, because they brought Kissing Jessica Stein to the Art House Theater where I lived. It wouldn't play in the main; it had to play in the Art House Theater.
Yep.
But I remember just sitting in the audience, surrounded by queer friends, men, women, everyone in between, and we were watching this on the screen, going, "Holy shit! Hooray! Hooray!" We get to see our community up on the screen, and I just don't think that Hollywood has gotten that yet. They haven't quite gotten there for a lot of our communities, and I don't know. It's a bummer sometimes.
Yeah, just in my experience with who I've worked with in film, it's like they're like 10 steps behind publishing. Like in some regards, like they're like way ahead of publishing, like as far as like health insurance for writers, like all these different things, like they're way ahead of the game. But like as far as like understanding like diversity and how to like interweave it or weave it into your work like seamlessly, it's just not quite there yet.
How much, okay, if you don't mind me asking, how with Dumpling, when that got turned into a Netflix, did you get any input in that at all? Did you get to do anything with that?
Yeah, I did actually. So Dumplin' actually started out as an independent film,
Hmm.
and then we later on sold it to Netflix.
Okay.
So there was a lot of decision making early on that I got to be a part of. Of course, I mean, I it's a very long story, but Dumplin' originally sold to Disney and was supposed to become a Disney movie, and then
Hmm.
that didn't happen, and it became an independent movie. But everyone who was hired by Disney stayed on with us to work on the
Oh,
movie, which
that's
was
good.
amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone who legally could, like some people just work for Disney and that's it. But
Right.
anyone who could legally stay on and work on the movie did stay on. And that's the same time we got Jennifer Aniston on board for the movie. And so it was just like, really like we were trying to make a movie with like scraps of money, and
Hmm.
it was like this like very big like family energy with everyone who was working together. And so there were lots of things that we fought over and lots of battles that I lost, but there was never there I mean there are, of course there are going to be things in the movie that like I don't completely get behind, I don't completely agree with, but there was never a time when I felt like I couldn't say that I was wanting something different or I had a different vision. Like I never felt like there wasn't room for my voice in that way. Of course, I lost plenty of battles because at the end of the day, I'm not the one paying the bills. But yeah, it was more collaborative than I would have expected.
The comment, best thing Jennifer Aniston has ever done.
Oh,
So I
thank
have to
you.
ask, just because I grew up watching Friends, is she very cool in person? Is she just
She's
like,
very cool and very
oh,
nice.
she
And
seems like she would be. That's good.
she's super cool. And it's just like, and like when you like, of course, like when you're about to meet her, you're like, oh my god, I have to get a picture of Jennifer Aniston. And then you meet her and you realize that she's just a normal person, and you almost feel bad like asking for the picture because you're like, all she does is get hassled every
Oh, I
day,
bet
all
she
the time,
does. But
nonstop.
see, after she got done with Friends, she had a streak where she did some really amazing movie roles. And maybe you can help me with this. She did an indie movie where she played a waitress, and it was with Jake Gyllenhaal
It's
in the
called
movie.
Cake, right?
The what?
Is it Cake?
Yeah, no, not Cake. It was something else. But at least I think it was,
I
she
gotta look
was,
it up.
look it up. She was dynamite in that movie. Like there was
They had
Oscar
like
buzz
Sex in a
around.
Car, right?
Yeah, right, right, right,
Yes.
right, right. And I just remembered watching her in that movie thinking, oh, this is Rachel from Friends. And then all of a sudden there's just scene after scene where she's just ferocious. And it
The
was
Good
The Good
Girl.
Girl. There you go.
I
Yes.
love that movie too.
That movie is
Yes.
so freaking good. And when she wasn't nominated for like an Oscar for that, I was like, come on. But she was just tremendous in that film. And I just wish she got more due she's not just Rachel from
I
Friends.
know,
And
I know.
I don't know her. I haven't watched her new show because it's on some streaming service that I just don't have. But I just wish she got more respect as a dramatic actress.
I agree. And her new show is really good. It's on Apple TV or whatever they
Is
call
that the one
Apple.
with Reese Witherspoon
Yes.
and what's his name?
Yes.
Office
Super
dude.
good.
Yeah, yeah. I love her. Then when I knew I was going to get to talk to you about this, I was like, oh, I have to ask her. Jennifer Aniston is nice because
She is. She
you
really
hear
is.
stories about celebrities that you think are going to be so cool and they turn out to be jerks.
Okay, I'll tell you my favorite Jennifer Aniston
Yeah,
question or
do it.
story really fast, and then
Yeah.
I have a question for you
Oh,
about
okay,
the
no,
book,
totally.
which
This
is
is
why we're
totally
here.
fine. This is the last
Um,
day of my tour. It's totally cool.
but this is my favorite Jennifer Aniston story. Okay, so Dolly Parton did the whole soundtrack for the movie,
Mhm.
and I mean, of course, Jennifer Aniston is like the big wig on the movie. Like everyone is like, even like the crew is kind of like when she comes into a room, everyone's like a little bit more hushed, like a little bit more like geeking out a little bit. And so, of course, the only person that could possibly top Jennifer Aniston is Dolly Parton. And
Yeah.
so the whole time I was on set like the last 2 weeks of filming, and the whole time we were there, everyone was like, well, Dolly Parton's supposed to make a set visit. Dolly Parton's supposed to make a set visit. And like everyone's freaking out, including Jennifer Aniston, because like even though they've become like friends since then, it was still like, oh my God, Dolly Parton. And
You just don't avoid that. It's Dolly freaking Parton. And
yeah,
it's
and so it was kind of like this. Have you ever seen Waiting for Guffman? I feel
Mhm.
like, okay,
Yeah.
it was sort of like this Waiting for Guffman energy where it's like Dolly Parton's supposed to be here, Dolly Parton's supposed to be here. It's today the day, because her schedule was like ever changing, so we just never knew. And so we were filming this drag scene in the movie where there's all these Dolly Parton drag queens, And there's one specific drag queen that was there that's like a Dolly impersonator. Like, it's what he does. Like, Dolly has seen a picture of him. Like, one time she was on like Good Morning America, and they showed Dolly Parton a bunch of pictures of herself, and then inserted a picture of Jason, who is the Dolly Parton impersonator. And she had to pick out the drag queen. Like, she had to look at old pictures of herself and then a picture of Jason. And she assumed that Jason was a picture of her. Like, she picked out some of her own pictures, and just, so that's how good he is. So Jason is coming on set, and he's walking over from his trailer, like completely decked out. And from afar, Jennifer Aniston sees Jason Cosmo, this Dolly Parton impersonator, and is like, oh, she's here. She came. And she's like, starts like freaking out, kind of like telling everyone that's around her, like, Dolly's here, Dolly's here. And I was like, no, that's just a drag queen. But it was like equally exciting, because Dolly Parton drag queens are always exciting.
Yeah. Did you actually get to meet Dolly Parton?
I have. I've met Dolly.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That is that I have such a weird dichotomy, because it's either Dolly Parton or Britney Spears are my gay mecca.
Yes.
Like,
my God.
I would just die, because I grew up, my mom she always had records, vinyl. That's what we listened to growing up, and she had everything vinyl, Dolly Parton on vinyl, and that's what we grew up listening. And then to see Dolly Parton as she is now, the tremendous philanthropist that she is, and how you don't, like, the only way you hear about it, she never advertises anything about it. It's always with news stories saying Dolly Parton donated this, Dolly Parton is building this, Dolly Parton is doing that. And I just think, if I was older and rich and beyond my wildest dreams, that's exactly the type of person I'd want to be. That is exactly the type of person I'd want to be. Is I'm not going to tell people I'm doing good things. I'm just going to do them because I want to do them. Yes. And I just imagine she is the greatest person in the world.
She is.
Next to
She
Britney
truly is.
Because I love her too.
I truly love Dolly, and I also love Britney too. I've seen Britney a few times in Las Vegas, and I don't think that we have enough time right now to talk about all the current Britney issues. But we'll have to save that, I think, for another time.
Yeah, for our Britney Dolly tour we'll do later.
Yeah,
where we write a book about
hashtag Free Britney. Thank you, David.
Yes, thank you. I agree that conservatorship.
If you don't know what Free Britney is, please go search it out.
Search it, because she needs our help.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about, like, tell me about your connection to fan fiction, because that is like the driving force behind this book.
Fan fiction, man. Yeah. Fan fiction is it's kind of like going back with the whole idea of stigma behind issues of being plus size or having neurodiversity or queer, anything like that. It gets such a bad rap. It is such a bad rap. And fan fiction, when I began writing this book, I knew it was going to be a central part of it, because I remember being 16 years old and how I loved very specific things. I loved X-Files, and I loved Star Wars, and I loved video games. But I was 16 in 1998. So the world is a little bit different now in 2020 than it is in 1998.
I don't even think you had like Zanga or LiveJournal.
No, you didn't have like I've said before, like, my idea of fandom was saving up money to buy an X-Files zine online and get that actually mailed to me to look at people's like lesfic of Dana Scully inside and stuff like that. But it was look, I have one series. It's called the Green Creek series. It's about queer werewolves, and it has a very nice fandom built up around it. It's very, very popular, and the fandom is brilliant. And I kind of got the idea from them, seeing the artwork that they create and the fanfic that they write, even though I don't read it because it just kind of would mess with my own canon. But they are very passionate, and it makes me wonder, it made me wonder about the passion of loving something so much that you devote part of your life to it. Mm-hmm. And so I basically started researching fandom and fan fiction, which led me to Archive of Our Own, which to me, next to Wikipedia, is one of the best websites on the entire internet, because the big main goal from that at least the main thing that I got from Archive of Our Own, and I think it's just amazing, is that these are people, writers, so dedicated to their fandoms that they will write 200,000 word epics about the characters that they love for free. They will put this all online. They will write their butts off. They will have their friends beta read it, and then they will publish that online for free. I can't imagine spending months and months and months, and now that I've, since I've been published since 2011, writing something like that and doing that. I don't have that in me, and I am so in awe of people who can do that. And not only is it a wonderful thing that they do, but fan fiction fandom is a safe space for a lot of queer kids who don't get to see themselves in canon. So what they do is they change canon and basically queerify it. And that's so important, because we don't, especially when I was a kid, I never got to see myself in anything. I never got to see myself in TV and movies and books and comics, anything like that. The closest I ever got to really seeing myself was probably Iceman in the X-Men comics, where it didn't say he was gay, but everybody knew he was gay. Now he has a queer arc, and it's out and proud and wonderful and hooray. But you didn't get to see stuff like that. So not only is it a safe space for queer people, but it's also a place where writers can go to hone their voices and to find out what works, to find out what doesn't work. Or it doesn't even need to be that serious. They can just be that somebody loves this fandom, so they're writing 500-word fic, or they can write something extremely long that goes on forever. Like, I think one of the last tour stops that we had, we looked it up, and like one of the longest fan fiction in the world is still ongoing, and it's like 4 million words, and it's about Super Smash Brothers, the Nintendo video game. It's literally the longest fan fiction, and it's been in writing for years. And the person that wrote it, like they update it like maybe once every year or every other year. Like, it's been going on for like over a decade, I think. And they recently did an update, I think like last year, and it put it at like 4.6 million words. This one fan fiction about video games. I don't see, that's the kind of passion I love.
Yeah.
I may not understand writing 4 million words about Super Smash Brothers, but I will fight like hell for your right to do that. If that's what makes you happy, then you know what? Go for it. Who cares about what anybody else thinks?
And there's fic out there about like everything, like from that to like Property Brothers. Like, it's just everywhere.
Oh, I found some stuff when I was doing fanfic. Because when you say there's fanfic about everything, there is fanfic about everything. Yeah. There is some very
like HGTV fanfic is a very real thing.
And so is very adult SpongeBob SquarePants fanfiction that you would not believe was written, and he has all those holes apparently for a reason.
I shouldn't have to process that while on camera.
I did, and I found the only way that it makes me feel better is if I tell other people, so it spreads like an infection.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Like The Ring.
Right, exactly. But it's people love fan fiction or love their fandom so much that they just want to live in that world, and that's kind of where Nick is. He loves the idea of the Extraordinaries so much that he wants to live in that world. And so he basically writes what amounts to self-insert fan fiction, which, I mean, come on, it's very obvious who the main character is based off in his fan fiction. Everybody knows it. And he, I don't know, I'm just delighted by him as a character just because he is so oblivious about so many things, and that makes me happy. I love oblivious characters who don't realize that there's a big wider world going on around them because they're so singularly focused.
I love that too. I think that, oh my gosh, I have one more quick question to ask you. Yeah. And then if any of our viewers here have any questions, you guys can type them in the comments.
And then I also wanted to
I think that they're busy talking about A penis-shaped mozzarella stuffed meatloaf. Okay, that's fine. That's cool.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Klunatics. You are doing your job. That's super good.
Thank you. But okay, so I want to know, like, what's the one fandom that you are like voracious for, that you just gobble up?
Poe Dameron and Finn from Star Wars, Space Husbands. Finn and Poe. I will, Storm Pilot, that's their ship name. I will go down with that ship. And as I think I said this once before, I can't remember if I did or not, but I won't give any more hints beyond it. But just to do it, I wrote a fanfic about them and posted it on AO3. And I posted it back in 2018.
What?
18. Yeah, I wrote one fanfic while I was researching the Extraordinaries, or after I finished it and I wrote it. And because I just wanted to say, you know what, I've contributed to a fandom in that regard. So I wrote a few 1,000-word fanfic and posted it on AO3 under a name that nobody will be able to say, oh, that's TJ, he wrote that.
I think if anyone can find it,
I know
people in this.
People will find, I'm sure they will. But yes, there is
they're on it.
There is a Finn Poe, TJ Klune original fanfic out there on
Don't
AO3.
underestimate the Klunatics, Lisa says.
Yeah,
Honestly,
I know.
After the penis meatloaf, I don't.
Is there a fandom that you love, that you belong to, that you love more than anything?
Many. Like a general thing that I love and will like constantly think about and ruminate on in general is Channing Tatum, and just like the Magic Mike world in general.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. But it's not necessarily a fandom, but it is something I obsess over.
Oh, I bet you there's fanfic for it on AO3.
Oh,
let me tell you. I'm sure there's very, very queer fanfic about that too.
Oh yes, please. I have not written it, but I have, like, if you know what I mean. But also I was never a really big Star Wars fan until the more recent movies came out. I just didn't grow up with it. And my husband is an obsessive Star Wars fan, so we watched them.
He's a good man.
He is a good man. But before Star Wars, I was an obsessive Adam Driver fan. And so Star Wars really fed that for me.
Yeah, no, he is amazing.
Yeah, very amazing.
I think he got done dirty in the last movie. And I was not a fan of that movie at all. But he was still one of the better parts of it, as were Finn and Poe having more screen time than they had in the previous movie.
Finn and Poe were so good.
They could have been space husbands. The moment was there, but they chickened out instead of. And then you saw how Oscar Isaac and John said afterwards how they wanted it to happen, but the bigger up said no. And I'm just like, could you imagine how life-changing it could have been for a 15 or 16-year-old queer kid to see two men on screen telling each other they love? They had that really quick 10-second two women kissing in the background, and then all of a sudden they moved on, which they were able to remove from the film when they sold it to like China and stuff like that, because they don't like that kind of thing.
Right.
But could you imagine having the fabric of a queer relationship built up over two movies and then finally coming to fruition in the third movie, and having some kid somewhere who doesn't get to see himself be able to finally see himself in a Star Wars movie of all things, and they blew it.
They blew it. And the thing is, I'm a Scorpio, so the emotional argument for that is great. But the real argument is they left money on the table. Yeah. Like, they're like, Hollywood execs are so used to like living in fear of like conservative media and conservative agenda, and like we're gonna anger the toxic geek culture guys or the trolls. You know what I mean? Like, they're so used to living in fear of those people, because people like us who are eager and hungry for those things are so just grateful when they throw us a bone. And so they're so used to just giving us like those little moments, like the two women and kissing in the background, when really, like, they would make so much more money if they gave us those bigger moments that were so.
They would, because queer people would go out in droves to be able to see themselves. Because I remember going back to how I felt sitting in the theater watching Kissing Jessica Stein, how happy that made me.
I know.
Because I'd never seen a queer romantic comedy, especially around that time when all queer characters were supposed to be sad and teach people lessons when they got sick or beat up or died. And to be able to see a queer romantic comedy, I remember how I felt at that exact moment. It felt like I was taking a breath of fresh air for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine how that would have been in a big, huge movie like Star Wars, to be able to sit there and go, oh my God, they get it. Right. Take my money. And now I'm just like, screw you guys. I don't want to do that at all.
Yes.
That's stupid. So
I have a question.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, well, can we have Nick and Faith short story? You guys are really great together. That's very sweet.
Thank you. We are. We have chemistry. We're magic together. We're
if
wonderful.
I owned Faith, I would say yes to that. Yeah. But I don't technically own Faith.
Let's get Barry or the comic publisher to do a crossover, and then we can do it.
Or just wonderful. A podcast. That would be fun too.
Or just podcast host. Oh my God, we'd have a Britney Dolly podcast.
It would. That's all it would be. It's just Britney and Dolly.
Oh my God, that would be wonderful.
Britney and Dolly.
That would be, and free Britney. I would wear my free Britney shirts because she needs to be free. And she also needs to take care of herself too, because mental health is no joke, and that makes me sad.
I know. I completely agree. Okay, so this is what I want to know. What are you working on right now? What can we expect from you next?
Thank you for asking. That is wonderful. Right now, I just announced today that on August 12th, we get to see the cover for Under the Whispering Door, which is my next book out from Tor, following The House in the Cerulean Sea, which came out earlier this year and made me a USA Today bestseller, because that's how we do it now. And so that book is coming. That book will be coming next spring. This year, I have my next book, and my last of the year is my fourth and final book in the Werewolf series, Brother Song, that comes out in October. Mm-hmm. So, but I'm really excited about 2021 because I have 4 books coming out next year, and I'm exhausted. Wow. I'm tired, but I have 4 books coming out next year. So next spring is Under the Whispering Door, which is a queer romantic comedy about grief and ghosts who live in a tea shop. I have the sequel to The Extraordinaries that comes out next summer. That's already written and done and over with. And then next year, and my lunatics are probably waiting for this because I said I would talk about this. So I have this series called Tales from Verania. It is a very adult-oriented fantasy series. It is over the top, funny. Basically, when Nick grows up, he would turn into the main character of that series. There's swords and castles and dragons and magic, and it's awesome and it's wonderful. And I finished the 4th and what I thought was going to be the final book back in 2018. I wrote the three subsequent books after the first, all back to back to back, and released them within like a year. I think all 3 came out within a year. And then I decided to write another book recently about the Prince character, and he's going to get his own queer romance. So that book is called The Damning Stone, and that comes out next fall. But before that, earlier that fall, I am doing a second Verania book, the second book in that series, that is a spin-off side shoot kind of thing, where basically I wrote fan fiction about my own characters, and I wrote 4 stories of taking the characters and putting them into different situations. So there's going to be
people are so excited.
There's going to be 2 Verania books next year. The spin-off offshoot book will come out first, and then the main canon book will come out in the fall afterwards. And that is so freaking long. It's so much work, but I'm so excited about it. What about you? What do you got going on, and what's coming out next for you? You've got the next Faith book. I know that.
The next faith book, I thought next year was a busy year for me because I have 3 books coming out, but I think that you have me beat with 4. That's incredible.
Lord, we're tired.
Are they
I'm tired
all
already.
with Tor? Or are they all?
No, the Under the Whispering Doors with Tor, the Extraordinaries is with Tortine, and then my Tales from Brainiac books are self-pubbed because the prior publisher collapsed. And so I took out on my own.
That's amazing. All of my friends are romance authors, so I am well versed in the
world. Oh, okay. Yeah. So you know what's going on? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I legally I can't mention them by name anymore. So it's good. But yes. Awesome. So what's going on? Yeah. So what do you got?
Okay. So next year let's see, in like May or June, I have the 3rd and final Dumplin book coming out called Pumpkin. And it is about a boy named Waylon, and he is obsessed with a drag show that's loosely based off of Drag Race. And on the night of the season finale, he is sure that his favorite queen is going to win. And when she doesn't, he decides to audition for the show in like a fit of fury because he's so upset that she didn't win. And so he tries to send in his audition tape. Something happens and the entire school ends up seeing his audition tape, and he is nominated for prom queen as a joke. And he decides, you want to know what? Screw it. I'm going for it. Yay! And so he runs for prom queen. And so that's Pumpkin. That will be out next early summer, I think. And then the second book I have coming out next year is actually still a secret. And I can't talk about it yet.
That's fun.
I can tell you that it's about another character who already exists, and I'm getting to reimagine a very famous, iconic fairy tale, I guess I could say, with a plus size heroine modern day. So I'm very excited for that. And then yes, the next faith book will be out next fall, which I'm very excited for.
We are going to be freaking busy next year. So now we're going to have to do a Britney
for another
Dolly podcast on top of that.
I think so. It's going to be very, very busy for us. Before we sign off, I have some very quick lightning round questions for us.
Ooh, yeah.
All right, are you ready?
Yeah, totally go.
If you could choose to write any superhero, their origin story, anything, write for their comic, anything, who would you choose?
Wolverine. Easily, because he's been my favorite comic book character since I was 9 years old, and I have read pretty much, I won't say all, but many of the comics that he has been included in, and he will always be my favorite character. And they finally did him right in the last movie, only to have it end the way
Logan
it did.
Broke me.
Yeah, it did. Who's your favorite?
Someone said that, but Logan did break me.
Yeah.
I don't think that I would choose a superhero necessarily, but if I were ever given the opportunity to write Ursula from The Little Mermaid, I would write Ursula until the day I die, forever and ever and ever. Ursula is my superhero, like if we're being very, very real here. Like
the live action movie they're inevitably making off of that? Yeah. They need to hire a drag queen to play Ursula.
I know.
Do you know how amazing that would be if a drag queen played Ursula?
Ginger Minj is a good friend of mine, and they have been lobbying for the chance to play Ursula, but I don't know that will ever happen because I'm sure that they'll hire Adele post weight loss or something. I don't know.
I would love a drag queen playing Ursula in a live action adaptation of The Little Mermaid.
Yeah, and Annalise says Ursula was inspired by a drag queen. That's right.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Totally true. Okay. Who in your life, I hate the phrase sidekick, but who would be like your superhero compatriot in your real life? Like who's the one person in your life that's like, we could get into trouble together?
My friend Abby Rue, she's my best friend. She is a queer romance author too. But while I am the flighty, sunny, she is very sardonic and sarcastic and very grounded to down to earth. But at the same time, she is the one that would, if I say we're going to go do this and we're probably going to get in trouble, she would be like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to go anyways and do it with you. Let's do it. And then she would egg me on and then probably hand me a Molotov cocktail.
Okay, what's Abby's last name? I have to look.
Rue, R-O-U-X. Her biggest series is one of the most popular queer romance series ever done, Cut and Run.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's her. Yep.
That's
she is cool. She is just a delightful person who is just one of the best things that's ever happened to me.
That's awesome. I
How
feel
about
that
you?
way about my romance author pal, Sierra Simone. Though that's not her real name. But she's my person. Like, she's the person who I am on GChat with, like, from like noon until 3 a.m. every day. Just like, what are you doing? How many words have you written? Are we checking in? Do you want to sprint? Like, she's just my person. And we are also like travel companions. Like, she's
Yep.
just my bud. Okay. Flying or invisibility?
Invisibility, because I'm scared of heights.
I'm not scared
And
of heights, but I would love to like be able to maneuver without people seeing me.
and also, yeah, just be like, I'm sick of talking to people. Just invisible, and then
Yeah,
just
like
then nobody
introvert
can
switch
talk to me.
on. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Oh, my last question is, what's the last great book you read besides our own? We can't talk about our own, but what's the book you need everyone to read right now?
Oh, the book, what's it called? It's Stephen Graham Jones. He just put it out. It's a horror novel. It's called, what is it called? 10 Little Indians, and it has the cover with the elk horns on it. And
Oh,
I can't
wow.
remember the title. I think it's something like that. But everybody needs to read, if you like horror, or even if you don't even normally like horror, you need to read this book because it scared the literal crap out of me. And
Okay,
that's
what's his name
very
again?
Stephen Graham Jones.
Okay.
And it is, I've read horror since I was a kid. I read my first Stephen King book when I was 8 years old. So it's very hard to scare me. And this book scared me. And I was delighted by the fact that it scared me. So, and
Fantastic.
I had
The only good Indian.
the
Okay.
only good Indian, yes, and it is wonderful. Everybody needs
Okay.
to read that book. I had pre-ordered it when it was first announced, like a year ago, and then it got pushed back because of the pandemic. And then when it finally came out, I devoured it in one night. I loved it.
Okay. I am definitely getting that as soon as we sign off. The book that I will tell you all that you have to go and buy today is You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. It is a YA book about a girl who decides to run for prom queen when she finds out that the prize is like a partial scholarship or something like that. And she starts to fall for one of the other girls running for prom queen as well.
And also, that cover is to die for.
The cover is amazing. Leah Johnson's amazing. It's a debut, and it's so, I can't like stress how important it is to support debut authors, because it lets a publisher know that they should be buying more books from these people.
They should. Absolutely. And please, please, please support authors of color, because especially with debuts and stuff like this, because we need marginalized voices now more than ever. We have to have them. We have to have them. We have to have people telling their stories. And it's so, so important. But I have loved being able to see all the love that book has gotten on Bookstagram and Twitter. And I keep seeing that cover, and it's just gorgeous.
So good. It's so good. I had so much fun talking to you.
You are just freaking amazing. And don't let anybody else tell you otherwise. But thank you so much for joining me. And thank you for Toadstool Books for having us here.
Yeah.
Please, 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 everybody watching, support indie bookstores now more than ever. They need it, because we don't know when the world is going to go back to normal. So the best thing you can do is to support the bookstores and buy from them direct if you can, if you have it in your area. Yeah. So thank you so much for being here, and I hope everybody has a wonderful night. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.